This week on Driven, it's one of the fastest growing wheel-to-wheel racing series in the country. We hit the road with the Spec Corvette team as they bring America's sports car full circle to where it all started. Bowling Green, Kentucky, and the National Corvette Museum and Motorsports Park. Plus, the mystery of the sinkhole.
I think we'll be able to fix it. Maybe just rub it out. Rub it out.
It's all things Corvette, so buckle up for Driven.
It's the quintessential sports story. Hometown hero returns home to reclaim glory. But in this story, the hero is a car. In garages across America, they're getting ready to prove they still have what it takes to be called America's sports car.
From the garage at the Pellegrini Performance Group in Madisonville, Louisiana, the NOLA region team preps their cars to head 600 miles north to the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Why Bowling Green?
The birthplace of the Corvette, right? I mean, that's where those cars were made, and we're just going back home to show them off and show everybody what can be done with these cars.
Some of these cars went to Canada, California, Florida, wherever, and then they end up back here just looking a little bit different.
Sure, these C5s have lived, but they're still Corvettes.
V8 rear-wheel drive, manual transmission car is the ultimate American cool car.
The car's got a great heritage. They become world-class sports cars.
Loud and fast.
The cars are fast, they handle great, they're economical. You can buy a base car to turn into a Spec Corvette for about $10K.
Reasonably inexpensive way to go wheel-to-wheel racing in these C5 race cars.
And for race cars, they are relatively inexpensive.
A guy at home could do it himself. If you paid a shop to put a cage in there, you can build a competitive car for 25, 30 grand.
Helping to keep the cost down is Spec Racing.
Spec means specifications list for what you can and can't do, what's allowable to this car.
You don't have a choice to buy the most expensive, you just have the choice to buy what everybody else has. So that's the idea of a spec class, is to help keep the cap on the expenses and the creep of the expense.
The thing about spec is you don't use the car to determine ability. It's the driver performance.
Anybody can win a race on any day. The cars are so evenly matched.
Yesterday, I think the top 7 drivers were pretty much on the same second after qualifying. So that just makes for some great racing.
Some of the most talented people that I've met in the racing field moving into Spec Corvette class because of how affordable it is to race. And then you got people like me who are brand new to the sport who also see it very appealing that it's less carnage, less beating and banging typically than any of your other spec classes that are out there.
Most of these guys have driven other race cars. You get behind the wheel of this car and you have fun. It's fun.
Alexis Josefar wasn't always a Spec Corvette driver. We met him last year when he was racing in the much more expensive Super Unlimited G2 class.
Those cars, initially, today they're over 100,000. That was just the beginning.
More expensive didn't mean more fun.
What we didn't have is the competition. There weren't a lot of guys at our track or even regionally running these kind of cars.
Then Destiny came knocking.
And I blew the transmission, which was $5,000, $6,000. And the next day, I got to drive Ben's car, and I had a blast. And I came back in and I said, we're doing this. We're going to do the Spec Corvette thing.
Alexis wasn't the only one in the NOLA region to switch seats.
January of 2019, we had 1 car. January 2020, we had 6. Today, we have 8.
Across the country, the series is seeing similar growth.
California is where it was born. They've grown to probably 45, 50 racers there.
So we think we're soon going to have literally, 50, 60, 100 cars nationwide over the next few years. That just makes it more challenging, more competitive, more environments. We'll have nationals. It's going to be pretty exciting.
How does it feel when you pass your dad on the track and blow by him?
Bittersweet. Very bittersweet.
Bitters. He says that for the cameras, right?
Absolutely.
More from the Spec Corvette series coming up. But first, we take a lap around the NCM Motorsports Park.
Great googly moogly.
When Driven continues. When a bunch of Spec Corvette drivers from Louisiana, Florida, and even California drove hundreds of miles to Bowling Green, Kentucky to drive some more, it might have seemed questionable. For them, it was less of a trek and more of a pilgrimage.
We call it the trifecta. You know, you've got the manufacturing facility across the street, the museum, the National Corvette Museum, and then this racetrack. And having a really unique racetrack layout really helps, but being able to get that full Corvette experience this is the only place in the world you can do it. Ferrari kind of has the same kind of setup. Porsche and Stuttgart has kind of the same setup, and then Corvette.
But really, what's most fun about it is the layout of the track. It's a very challenging track. There's a lot of turns, 20-something turns, and so it keeps you on your toes.
These challenging features add to the track's draw.
This weekend we have the National Autosport Association, 258 cars.
We just have the opportunity to attract a lot of regions for this track because it's such a cool track and it's really centrally located for a lot of drivers.
NASA breaks up the country into different regions, and I think there's 12 total. We have representatives from 8 of the 12 here.
A lot of drivers hauled a long way to get here too. We had a lot of 9-hour, 8-hour, 11-hour hauls to get here.
That just want to come out and drive the racetrack. It's that special.
The NCM facilities help deliver the high-quality motorsports events that have defined NASA. NASA is also known for education.
Basically, it's a weekend warrior driver education model that has 3 elements: driver education, racing, and another thing, time trials.
NASA does a really great job of starting somebody who's never been out onto the racetrack before and working them through the program all the way up to wheel-to-wheel racing if that's what they want to do.
We are very, very focused on being a learning organization.
I'm looking for a beginner's course.
Go-kart is always a good way to get seat time. It's always a good way to get seat time.
You always know you're in for fun when you gotta wear a neck brace.
Lucky for me, NCM Kartplex wants to teach me a lesson.
That's what we want to do. We want to have people from age 5 to 60 out here racing.
Let's race, gentlemen. Look at those guys. They know what they're doing.
If you want low budget, entry level racing, karts are the way to go, man. I mean, you learn how to drive a kart. And this is the basics. You've got an engine, a steering wheel, and 2 gas pedals, and I mean, the most fun you ever had in your life. It's a blast.
That is fun. Guys, what do you think? Am I ready? Am I ready for the big track?
Definitely.
NCM has different ways to satisfy the need for speed.
Some of our biggest weekends are motorcycle weekends. We have a really big motorcycle following. The racetrack's really good for bikes. We've got a little something for everybody. We've tried to be really good in creating products to where no matter what your skill level or what your expectation is, we can give you a good time here.
So with all these different reasons to drive cross-country, to drive some more, one question still needs to be answered.
Why race?
Golf is boring as hell.
The racing and driving is a big part of it, but the friendships that evolve and develop last a lifetime.
Up next, we go off track and into the history of America's sports car at the National Corvette Museum. When Driven continues. The pilgrimage in pursuit of speed brought us to Bowling Green, Kentucky, the triumvirate of America's sports car.
We have a trifecta. So we have, of course, the amazing National Corvette Museum. Across the street from us is our National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park. There's 400 acres of space over there. We currently live on about 200 acres. We have a 3.15 mile racetrack, a very Le Mans inspired racetrack, a lot of curves and turns and very technical track. And then across the street from us, the other direction is the Bowling Green Assembly Plant, where they've built Corvette, the only place in the world since 1982.
At the center of it all is the yellow cone-shaped sky dome of the National Corvette Museum.
We are the curator of all things Corvette, from 1953 to 2020 and everything in between.
As the C5s prep for their races at the track, I rode shotgun with Dr. Sean in an iconic piece of American history.
Ready to roll?
Let's take this bad boy out.
All right, let's do it.
What's the first year of a Corvette?
53. So this is year 2. No changes from 53 to 54. And you got this Arctic white and Polo Sportsman red, and that's kind of it.
You don't need anything more with this stuff.
Nah, this is it. That's all you need right here.
What happens with you when you get behind the wheel of this kind of class?
Well, this is my favorite part of the job, obviously, right? It's a fantastic museum. We have a lot of things going on, but to be able to be part of our collection, to drive these cars, to think about the men and women who helped design and create these cars, and the fact that this was the first American sports car. You know, the servicemen and women came back from World War II having exposure to the MG, the 47, 48, 49 MG. They came back to America and said, well, where's our open air roadster? And
come on,
Chevrolet
America.
said, here it is. So the Corvette was born in 53.
And it's been going strong ever since.
Yeah, so you know, we're the most continuous American sports car brand. There is 1983, that's the year it's supposed to didn't make any cars, and we have one in the museum. So we can say that we have continued the history of the model, and just despite that year without production.
This beauty's begging for the track. She's saying, come on.
I love to take off speed.
Sean.
Yeah. And so you nailed it, right? So you can feel the essence of what it is to be a Corvette. It's meant to go and feel the air and the smooth ride and the fantastic muffler sound that we have right now. It's what it's made for.
There's no way not to be cool in this car, right? You sit in this car, you're automatically cool.
Absolutely. I think the cool factor goes up by 10, easily getting behind the wheel.
Knowledge is also cool. And here at the museum, it's also patriotic.
It is an actual museum. It's an actual path that you take as you learn about the history of the car. It's a great place also to learn about American ingenuity and American technology. And we have a model of every single Corvette ever made in this museum. So there's nothing more American in the automotive realm than the National Corvette Museum.
There is the full chronicle of all things Corvette, but it's the personal stories that steer the narrative. Stories like the entombed Corvette.
The story goes that is a man that lived in Maine and he owned a grocery store, and his wife didn't care for the way the car rode. So she asked him to sell it, and he said no, and instead put it in a vault or a tomb under his grocery store.
I would love to hear the conversation. I don't like it, it's too sporty, get rid of it. I'll show you. I'm building a vault in the basement.
27 years later, the car was freed and later found its way to the museum, where the vault was recreated, complete with windows so the grocer could see his static sports car.
But what it did provide us is the most preserved, naturally preserved, untouched 54 car in the world. It's got 2,000 miles on it. The original air in the tires from 1954 is still in the tires of the vehicle now.
Who won the argument? The wife or the husband, now that it's in the Corvette Museum?
Definitely the husband, because now it's ours.
One of the biggest stories in the museum happened in the museum itself in 2014.
911, what is your emergency?
This is the National Corvette Museum.
Yes, ma'am.
Sky Dome is full of smoke. I need fire out of here.
At 5:39 a.m., the floor in the Sky Dome, the iconic yellow Sky Dome that we're known for, part of that floor fell in.
Luckily, no one was hurt, but the story went national.
So what you're looking at here, Tom, this is about where my arms are. This is sort of the direction, and then the floor fell out. And then these 8 cars here were the 8 victims of the sinkhole. 3 were restored, and 5 were beyond repair.
How many tears were shed that morning when this happened?
Hundreds and hundreds across the country, right? Because these were iconic. These 3 cars that we restored, they're iconic. This is a 62 Tuxedo Black, an incredibly rare C1 Corvette, right? Not many of these in the world at all fell down the sinkhole. This is the 1 millionth Corvette ever made.
Fell down a sinkhole.
This is a benchmark car in General Motors history, the 1 millionth. And do the colors seem familiar to you, Tom?
Yeah.
We drove it today.
Yeah.
The white on red, the iconic first Corvette color scheme. What do we do? Pull the cars out of the ground, fill the hole, and create a whole new exhibit around the cave systems of Kentucky, the physics of cave systems, how our cars were restored. We restored 3 of the 8 cars. We showed the process of restoring these vehicles. We took them out, we restored the ones that we could restore. They're beautiful, our team did an amazing job. But now we're showing you the results of that day. And we didn't try to clean them up.
No.
We left them just as they were pulled up out of the ground. And look at the complete destruction of, these are the most, obviously, the ones that fell down first.
I'm really just impressed with the fact that you come back from something like that. I mean, that's an American comeback story there.
I like it.
Every exhibit reveals more.
We tell the story about design, engineering. We have an amazing gallery called the Performance Gallery. We talk about the epic battle between car designers and race car drivers and how Corvettes prevailed throughout the years.
So this
Zora's
is
first race car, 1957 SS, 1 of 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Literally, this is it, the only model.
It's almost too beautiful to race, though. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't thinking about it,
No.
but the car it's a work of art, and he's tooling around the racetrack in it.
That's the Corvette culture, you drive them. Started back in 57, right?
With the introduction of the mid-engine C8 in 2020, the father of the Corvette, Zora Arkus Duntov's vision for the car is also explored.
This is it. This is the car that Zora designed and put himself, right? There's a picture of Zora there with the car. So as early as 59, they were thinking about a mid-engine design. It only took them then, of course, 61 years, but we're there. And from there, we follow the path through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, now 2020. We'll end with this beautiful C8 car and show that sort of that trail of history getting to that 2020.
But unlike other museums, you can actually drive away with part of the exhibit if you pre-purchase from your local dealer.
So you can choose to have your car delivered at the National Corvette Museum, and then you meet with our delivery host for an hour or two, learning about the vehicle, tour the museum, have lunch at the cafe, and then my whole staff comes out and cheers you on as your car exits the museum down Victory Lane.
If you don't ever do this, you're making a huge mistake. Didn't know what to expect, but seeing the car walking in sets the tone for the day, and then you get to go through and see all these cars and listen to the history and learn all the things that you really don't get to see, that still being a Corvette fan. If you can't learn something coming here, there's just something wrong.
And Captain Quincy knows Corvettes.
This is number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10 from 1965 to 2020.
Does he look better in a Corvette? I see more handsome in a Corvette, be honest.
Absolutely.
But owning a Corvette is more than cosmetic. It's generational, even for those racing the cars down the road.
I actually bought a 2001 Z06 Corvette, brand new, had museum delivery. Ben and I flew up. He was probably 3 or 4 years old. Never in my life did I think that we would be back there and he would be racing me in that car. That was incredible.
Even if you don't drive away in a new Stingray, you will take something with you from the National Corvette Museum.
But when you come here and you see the history and you see the evolution from 53 to 20, when you think about what's gone into creating these cars, I think you walk away thinking, whether you're a Corvette fan or not, I think you leave here more of an automotive fan than ever before, and maybe we converted a few folks to Corvette in the process.
Up next, we head back to the track with Spec Corvette Racing.
Coming up, driven from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Why don't you try to keep pace?
As the race weekend at the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park ends.
Great weekend, guys. The inaugural Spec Corvette homecoming race to the museum where these cars were born.
How was your weekend?
Oh man, I've had a ball. I've had a ball. It's a great track, great group of racers. Just had a blast.
After a weekend of so many competitive races,
Ole Thornton in second place from all the way from California. Ole, thanks for joining us. Congratulations. Great.
Spec Corvettes, both in the wet and the dry yesterday, were some of the fastest cars in the 2 races yesterday.
You know, there's other spec classes, but I think this has more of a mystique to it. You know, it's American muscle.
It's gotten so crazy that a car that capable can be built as economically as it can be, and guys are coming out here and racing the hell out of them. I love it.
after a weekend of multiple winners,
The number 1 finisher, Mr. Ben Hosevar. Congratulations, Ben. Good job.
there is more than trophies, even if they're made of car parts.
Trophy for the next race?
Yep.
More than all of this, there are the memories made at maximum speed.
This is my first time up here to Bowling Green, Kentucky, first time to the National Corvette Museum to see what it actually means, you know, the history behind it, and then to bring the C5 back here and win one of the races. That was pretty cool.
Good job. Cooked a mean lobster too.
I'm hoping that this becomes an annual event, you know, pilgrimage for Spec Corvette racers everywhere, because it really is. There's a heritage here that I just didn't really realize till I got here.
It was almost a pilgrimage back to the birthplace of the car, but bigger picture, it's another opportunity for us to showcase this class. It's about sharing that fun and that experience for us.
People will come for the racing and they'll stay for the community that's here.
Guess who's got coal tomorrow?
Spec Corvette plans on returning to Bowling Green next year for its national event on the 4th of July weekend. Sweet way to celebrate America's sports car. No matter what you're driving or where you're driving, stay driven, my friends.